Are the New York Yankees absolutely out of their minds for trying to run it back? Or is Brian Cashman secretly orchestrating a masterclass in roster continuity that the rest of the league is simply too blind to see? Welcome back, baseball fanatics, to another explosive deep dive into the Bronx Bombers. Let's address the elephant in the room right out of the gate. The New York Yankees were absolutely humiliated, dismantled, and embarrassed by the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League Division Series last October. It was a massacre that left the fan base demanding heads on platters. Yet, here we are in the spring of 2026, and the front office has essentially looked at that wreckage and said, let's do it again. Is this arrogance, or is it calculated genius? General Manager Brian Cashman recently defended this quiet winter, claiming he didn't set out to just reunite the 2025 squad. He argues that every single transaction was dictated by the brutal realities of the free agent and trade markets. Timing, sequence, and exorbitant asking prices forced their hand, resulting in 24 of the 26 players from that ALDS nightmare returning to wear the pinstripes. The only departures? Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, who chased the money across town to the New York Mets. But hold on, because the front office vehemently denies that this is the same stagnant team. They are pointing frantically to the massive mid-season overhaul from last year. Remember the trade deadline frenzy? The Yankees acquired closer David Bednar, electric reliever Camilo Doval, third baseman Ryan McMahon, and versatile utility men Jose Caballero and Ahmed Rosario. These guys were only in New York for a cup of coffee, less than 3 months before the playoffs hit. Management genuinely believes that this specific configuration, this final evolved form of the roster, is a legitimate World Series contender. Half of the fan base is absolutely furious, screaming into sports radio microphones that the luxury tax payroll is being wasted on a flawed core, while the other half sees a glimmer of hope in the chemistry these late additions can build with a full spring training. Historically, we've seen teams like the 1998 Yankees thrive on continuity, but we've also seen the mid-2010s Yankees suffocate under the weight of aging, unchangeable rosters. The cap hit is massive, the expectations are astronomical, and the pressure in the locker room is already boiling over. If this team stumbles out of the gate in April, the Bronx will become a toxic wasteland of booze and trade demands. The fate of the 2026 season doesn't just rest on the guys taking the field on opening day. It rests on a phantom roster of injured stars and blocked prospects who hold the true keys to championship number 28. Let's dive deep into the medical ward, because the Yankees' championship aspirations are currently resting on surgical tables and rehabilitation mounds. The most critical piece of this entire puzzle is, without a doubt, the reigning ace, Gerrit Cole. Recovering from Tommy John surgery is a grueling, soul-testing process, and Cole is currently targeting a return in early June. The progress has been tantalizing during spring training. Manager Aaron Boone has been dropping hints, and Cole recently hit 97 mph with a revamped delivery during live batting practice at Steinbrenner Field. But let's inject some historical context here. Returning from a major elbow reconstruction at 35 years old is not a fairy tale. It's a statistical anomaly. We've seen legends like Justin Verlander and John Smoltz reinvent themselves post-surgery late in their careers, but the margin for error is microscopic. Cole is sticking to the science, citing the 14 to 18-month recovery window established by Dr. Neil Elatrici. If he rushes back and blows out that elbow again, the Yankees' rotation collapses, and their playoff chances evaporate instantly. The tactical impact of missing a Cy Young caliber arm for the first 2 months means the bullpen will be taxed heavily, potentially leading to a catastrophic fatigue cascade by August. And speaking of elbow surgeries, we have to talk about the absolute warrior mentality of Carlos Rodon. Rodon managed to avoid Tommy John, but he had bone chips and a spur removed from his elbow last October. This is a guy who pitched to a brilliant 3.09 ERA over 195 innings last year, while literally being unable to lift his arm to button his own shirt after games. That level of pain tolerance is legendary, echoing the gritty, blood-soaked sock days of Curt Schilling. The Yankees are projecting Rodon to return by early May, and the medical staff is preaching patience. Rodon has regained his full range of motion, but the psychological hurdle of trusting that elbow to snap off a devastating slider without agonizing pain is massive. If Rodon returns to form, the Yankees suddenly boast a two-headed monster at the top of the rotation that can rival any pitching staff in the history of the American League. But what if he suffers a setback? What if the velocity dips? The ripple effect on the locker room chemistry would be devastating. The starting rotation is the heartbeat of this franchise, and right now, that heartbeat is irregular. dependent on the unpredictable healing rates of two aging, heavily compensated superstars. The fans are holding their collective breath, knowing that the difference between a parade down the Canyon of Heroes and another October exit lies entirely in the structural integrity of two right elbows. Moving from the mound to the infield dirt, we arrive at the most polarizing figure in the Yankees lineup, Anthony Volpe. The hometown kid, the chosen one, the heir to Derek Jeter's throne, is currently recovering from shoulder surgery and isn't expected back until mid-May. Let's be brutally honest here. Volpe played through a partial tear in his left shoulder labrum for most of 2025, and it showed. He had the worst season of his young major league career. Defensively, he regressed from a Gold Glove caliber shortstop to a liability, and offensively, his numbers plummeted well below the league average. This is a terrifying sign for an organization that banked its entire infield future on this elite prospect. When Jeter struggled early, he adjusted. Volpe is now facing a career-defining crossroads. While he refuses to use the injury as an excuse, the front office is secretly praying that a healthy shoulder will unlock the superstar potential they've been promising the fans. In the meantime, Jose Caballero is taking over the starting shortstop duties. Cashman has already planted a seed of controversy, stating that if Caballero plays out of his mind, he might just keep the job even when Volpe is healthy. Can you imagine the locker room dynamic? A veteran utility man stealing the job from the Golden Boy? It's a storyline straight out of a Hollywood sports drama. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the situation with Clarke Schmidt. Schmidt was having a phenomenal season, a 3.32 ERA in 14 starts, before being shut down for Tommy John surgery in July. Because it wasn't a full reconstruction, he's eyeing a mid-August return. But here is where the tactical genius of the front office might come into play. With the rotation expected to be fully loaded by late summer, Schmidt could be transitioned into a high-leverage bullpen weapon. Think about the historical impact of a starter moving to the pen for a playoff push. It's exactly what the Yankees did with Ramiro Mendoza during their dynasty years. A fresh, hungry Schmidt coming out of the bullpen in the 8th inning of a playoff game could be the ultimate X-factor. However, if the rotation suffers more injuries, Schmidt might be forced back into a starting role before his arm is fully conditioned for the workload. The projections are volatile. The Yankees are playing a dangerous game of roster roulette, relying on mid-season reinforcements to save a team that could very well be fighting for its life in the brutal AL East standings by the time the All-Star break rolls around. The tension is palpable, and every single rehab assignment in the minor leagues will be scrutinized by millions of anxious fans. Finally, we must address the glaring issue of the future versus the present. The curious cases of Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, the Martian and the towering slugger, are currently on the outside looking in, projected to start the season in AAA Scranton, Wilkes Barre. Let's do the math, folks. The Yankees have Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, and Trent Grisham locked into the outfield, with a healthy Giancarlo Stanton clogging up the designated hitter spot. They even brought in veteran Randall Grichuk to hit lefties. Cashman has bluntly stated that Dominguez is blocked, but is this asset mismanagement? Dominguez is 23 years old, possesses generational speed, and has shown flashes of brilliance, but his inability to hit left-handed pitching, 204 average last year, and his subpar center field defense have made him expendable in the short term. Keeping a talent like that in the minors to rot while veterans take up at-bats is a strategy that has infuriated a vocal segment of the fan base. They remember how the Yankees stunted the growth of prospects in the past by favoring aging veterans. Then you have Spencer Jones, a 25-year-old physical freak who hit 35 home runs in the minors last year, but strikes out at a catastrophic rate. A 35.4% strikeout rate in the big leagues would make him unplayable. His stock is dropping, and he is trapped behind a wall of all-stars. What happens next? These two premium prospects are the ultimate trade chips. If the Yankees are struggling in July, or if they need one more piece to guarantee a World Series run, Dominguez and Jones could be packaged in a blockbuster deal that alters the landscape of Major League Baseball. The cap implications of keeping them are minimal now, but their value is a ticking clock. In conclusion, the 2026 New York Yankees are a fascinating, terrifying experiment in roster retention and medical faith. They are betting the house that their injured stars will return like conquering heroes, and that their blocked prospects will either develop patience or become the currency for a championship trade. It's a high-wire act without a net. What do you guys think? Are the Yankees destined for World Series glory, or is this entire plan going to blow up in Brian Cashman's face by June? Drop your hottest takes in the comments below, smash that like button if you bleed pinstripes, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a second of our elite baseball coverage. I'll see you in the next video.